Hello, friends. Today, let's listen to the story about
The miser who changed.
in a small town there lived a woman named
Shantana.
People didn't call her by her name anymore. They called her the one who never gives.
Shantana.
Saved everything money, grains, sugar, even kindness. Her cupboards were always locked, lockers were always full, and the keys they were tied to the end of her sari. She believed the more I save, the safer I am. But life had its own ways of teaching. One afternoon, some relatives came to visit her,
Shantana.
forced a smile, and welcomed them inside. She went to the kitchen and made some tea. When she served it, one of them took a sip and said gently,
Shantana.
"Can you please add a little more sugar?"
Shantana.
Immediately replied, "Oh, the sugar's over." But in the cupboard, there were two full containers of sugar. The relatives exchanged glances, but they stayed quiet. Another day, her neighbor knocked on the door and said,
Shantana.
"Can I borrow a little yogurt? Guests have come suddenly."
Shantana.
Paused for a second, then said, "Oh, I just finished it."
The neighbor smiled politely and left. But inside Shantana's fridge, a bowl full of yogurt sat untouched. One evening, the small boy from the neighborhood came running. "Auntie, do you have some water? Our supply has stopped." Shantana looked at him, then at her kitchen. She said, "Oh no, beta. Even my water is less today." The boy nodded slowly and walked away. Shantana closed the door, but something inside her closed a little more that day. Years passed. Her cupboards became more full, but her relationships became more empty. People stopped asking her for help. Slowly, they stopped coming altogether. Then one day, life turned. Shantana fell very sick. High fever, weakness. She could barely stand. For the first time, she felt helpless. But with great difficulty, she stepped outside and called her neighbors. "Can you please call the doctor?" The same neighbor she had refused before immediately helped. The doctor came, checked her, and kindly said, "You need medicines. I have these for now. You take them." Then she said, "The money, but my cupboard is locked now." The doctor smiled gently. "Oh, don't worry, auntie. You can pay me later. I live in the neighborhood. I'll be nearby." Shantana's eyes widened. For the first time, she realized people could help without asking for anything in return. Slowly, Shantana began to feel little better. Even as she rested, her neighbors kept coming by.
They bought food, warm chapatis, milk, and a little snacks that she liked. Sometimes they would sit beside her, gently feeding her, while she was too weak to eat.
Shantana
Watched them quietly, surprised. She had never expected anyone to care for her like this, especially after all the years she had kept everything to herself. One afternoon, as her neighbor bought a small plate of food,
Shantana
looked at her locked cupboards. "I kept all this to myself, but now, when I need help, people are helping me so generously," she thought. Meanwhile, another neighbor came to check on her.
Shantana
slowly untied the keys from her sari. She looked at the neighbors and softly said, "My cupboards, the food in my fridge, it's getting spoilt. Why don't you please help me and take it out? And maybe you can take some home and use it." The neighbor's eyes widened in surprise, then smiled warmly. Together, they opened all the cupboards and the fridge. The sugar, yogurt, and milk were finally being shared after all these years.
Shantana
Watched quietly as the neighbors carried small portions to their homes. Her heart felt lighter and a small, happy smile appeared on her face. Slowly,
Shantana
became completely well. Her strength returned, and her heart felt lighter than ever. One bright morning, she decided to do something special. She called all her neighbors to her house and said with a smile, "Please come. I want to thank you all for your help."
Shantana
Prepared a lavish meal, warm chapatis, sweet milk, fresh yogurt, and little treats for everyone. Even the doctor came, smiling, and joined the celebration. As everyone sat together eating and laughing,
Shantana
felt something she had never felt before, which was happiness that comes from giving, sharing, and being with others. From that day on,
Shantana
no longer was the one who never gives. She became the woman everyone loved. She was kind, generous, and joyful. Sai Hira Ram.